So this is a subject I've been wanting to make since the Six Nations, and I've had suggestions to make this video. So let's get into it. England's depth chart. How many players do they have ready to step up to the top level? Because kind of the point I want to make here is numbers don't just mean depth. Now England, I think we can fall into the trap that they have a lot of depth because they have a lot of numbers. They've obviously got less teams now, but still 10 teams with academies. We know in England there's a good private school system, all the grassroots clubs. So we're going to have a lot of players with potential that could make it to the top level. But for me, that's not real depth. I'd love to know what your definitions are. So I've been going into this trying to get some categories of depth, if you like. And spoiler, my conclusion is there's not as much depth as we might think in England. And England, yes, they played well in the last 2 games of the Six Nations, but they're in quite a delicate position where they could kick on or they could be found out for a bit of this depth. So I'd love to know your thoughts on this because, of course, these categories are very subjective. And I'm going to go through pretty much every player that I think is in the frame at the moment. Of course, there are others. I'd like to know which players you put in this, but it's a pretty big list. I've tried to categorise everyone into 4 groups. Now, it took me quite a while to work out these categories. And the first category is top level proven, i.e. we've seen these players play at the top level a number of times, maybe not every single time, but we've seen the evidence that they can be top level players, and they're the sort of depth you really want in a side where you can just bring in a player that is proven and you know they could perform at the top level. My next category is top level indications. These are players that have shown they've got the quality to be top level, but maybe haven't had many caps, or they haven't shown it on enough occasions for me to put them into the top category. So that's the next one down. Then category 3, I've been deciding what to call this. I don't think average is fair enough. I'm going to call it solid level, i.e. players you can rely on to do a job. Maybe they're not the best in their position in the world. You know, maybe you could get away with a couple of these players in a team. That they're not the best they could be. You're trying to find better, but they could do a really good job, and we've seen it. Then level 4, I'm putting as potential. They're unproven players. They may well be becoming top players, the best in the world. They may just turn out to be solid or not quite good enough, but the potential is there. But that is still the 4th level because I'm not classing that as depth at the moment. So let's dive straight into it. At loose head prop, the only one I'm putting in the top level is Ellis Genge. Some would disagree here. Some would say he's a bit too hot-headed. Some would say his scrummaging's not good enough. But I think we've seen enough performances at the top level to put him there, and that's the way I'm categorising here. I'm not saying every single game he is elite, but we've seen a lot of great performances. But then at level 2, I think there's a problem there. We haven't seen anyone who has shown indications that they are going to be world-class very soon, or we've seen it a few times. Joe Marler I'm putting in that solid area because I don't think he's going to be getting any better or quicker, but we know he can do a really good job, maybe for another year, 2, I don't know. And then there's a lot of players in that number 4 area of potential. Beno Urbano, we haven't really seen enough. Bevan Rodd could go up to a high level, but again, we haven't seen it yet. Finn Baxter is only a new guy. Phil Brantingham is another prop that we haven't seen yet. Then at hooker, I think it's a bit better with Jamie George and Theo Dan. For me in that top level, I know Theo Dan is still very new, but every time I've seen him, he's looked explosive to me. He's looked a bit special. At number 2, I think we've seen just enough of Jamie Blamire now to say there are shades of top level in him, but he needs more caps. Cowan Dickey still has advocates to say he should be starting for England, but I would put him as a solid performer for now. But let me know what you think. Maybe Jack Walker's another one we could put in there. At number 4, not sure who the up-and-coming hookers are. Curtis Langdon maybe could have been in the picture, but I think he got a ban. Sam Riley is a young guy coming through Harlequin, so let me know which of the hookers coming through, but pretty good at the top. But then, of course, it goes downhill. Look at this illustration here. Tight head prop. I don't see anyone consistently top level, and I don't see anyone displaying those characteristics that they could get to the top level very soon. Dan Cole, Will Stewart, maybe Kyle Sinclair if he gets back into fitness and form would be solid options. And there are some guys coming through. We haven't seen enough of Joe Hayes. Aboko Fajor is incredibly young. Harper's very young. We didn't see Painter or Josh ISF Scott either. They are potentials. We're desperately looking for the next big thing. But all those others are just potential. And there's nobody in the top 2 categories. So depth-wise, very poor. Second row is interesting. Maro Itoje has been very consistent with his performance, top-level performer. Some might say he's not one of the best around anymore, but I still think he's very important for England. He's in the top category, and I'm not putting Martin or Chesham in that top category yet. I know we've seen quite a lot of Chesham, but I'm still not thinking top-level second row yet. Maybe he'll go into 6, but I'll leave him at second row for now. Martin, I think, will get into that top category, but again, hasn't had that many caps. But it's pretty good there with those 3. If we wanted solid performers, well, Johnny Hill, Charlie Ewells can do a solid job. Not that I think that England are going to use them, but they are there. And there are some guys coming through with potential, but Alex Coles didn't get those caps in the Six Nations. Tuima's still very young, but he's that big second row who could be very different for us. Ben Bamber at Sale is another interesting guy. Back row, I think there's actually only 3 guys who I'd put in that top level. Ben Earls had enough performances in the World Cup and the Six Nations to get into that category. Sam Underhill's shown he's still there in the Six Nations. And if Tom Curry can come back fully fit, we've seen plenty of evidence that he is top level. I'd put Don Brandt in the number 2. He's kind of that backup number 8 at the moment. And we've seen flashes of excellence, but also signs that maybe he's not quite up to the pace of international rugby when it really comes to the physical grind, but he has the potential to show that he could go up there. Chandler Cunningham South in this Six Nations, I think, has shown enough to get into that number 2 category and could well step up to number 1 if he gets a run of games and stays fit. With Ethan Roots and Ben Curry, I think they're kind of solid players. I'm not sure they're going up any higher. Let me know if you think they've got a higher ceiling than that, but that's where I'm putting them. Then in category 4, we've got lots of exciting players, but these guys don't count as depth yet for me because we haven't seen the evidence. Zach Mercer, you'd have to back as our man. Build your team around him. He's very skillful, he's very slippery, but he's different to an Alfie Barbary, and Borthwick would have to go all in on him, and until then, he's potential. Pepper and Pearson and Willis, I think, have that physicality for the top level, but again, haven't seen enough. Ted Hill is back fit finally, and every time I say, let's see Ted Hill, he seems to get injured, and he's got guys ahead of him now at 6, like Cunningham South, like maybe Roots, so he's going to have to go some, but still potential. Alfie Barbary, we know his ball-carrying potential, but again, getting injured a lot. Greg Fizzelau is another really good back rower from Exeter, but again, complete potential. So not bad, but a lot of guys in that 4 category that we need to see. Scrum half. Going to make a big call here and say Alex Mitchell isn't quite yet in category 1. He's shown definitely signs that he could be, but not quite consistently yet. Hopefully he will get there by the end of this year. In that solid category, I think from what we've seen of Jack Van Poortvliet in the past, that's where he's falling at the moment. Can he take it to the next level? Well, he's back fit now with Leicester. Can he make a move back into the England squad? He was there playing under Eddie Jones and obviously got injured. Then Ben Spencer, we didn't see enough of him in this Six Nations, so at his age, he's still potential, unfortunately. Harry Randall, the same. Maybe he should be in 2, but I just don't think he's had enough time yet to go there. And Rafi Quirk is just potential, so we're still struggling a bit to get those guys into 1 and 2 at scrum half. Hopefully that'll come soon. We've had the retirement, of course, of Danny Kerr, which kind of frees up a spot, if you like. Then fly half. Is this contentious? Is it not? I don't know. But George Ford, we've seen plenty of performances in his career to say he is top level, maybe not every single time. Sure, they've got strengths and weaknesses, but we've seen great performances from him to say he's number 1. Owen Farrell would, of course, be in here as well. That would be great depth, but Farrell's not there. Smith and Smith, well, I think they're still in 2, even though Marcus Smith has got plenty of caps. He hasn't had that run of games at 10, consistently knocking out really good performances. So I think he would have got more caps if he hadn't been injured at the beginning of the Six Nations, and that probably keeps him at 2. And Finn Smith, even though we've only seen him a little bit, I still think still has shown potential to be top level, so he is number 2. I don't think we've got anyone solid to bring in who we've seen a few times before for England, and there is some potential there, but maybe not a huge amount. Charlie Atkinson, we've seen, has that flashes of brilliance for England A, but can he be consistent? Can he be physical enough? And Orlando Bailey for Bath is a good player. Is his goal kicking good enough? Another question. He's there behind Finn Russell at the moment, but still good potential. But those 3 are okay, but if we lose 1 or 2, then we're struggling for depth. Centre. Still struggling for depth at centre. Henry Slade is number 1, although I do think he has limitations in his physicality, but he's proven plenty of times he can perform at the highest level. And the good news for England is Joe Marchant is coming back to England with Saracens next season, and he would go straight into number 1. I've seen enough from him to say he can perform at that level. Manu Tuolangi is out going to France, so he's not in this list. Ollie Lawrence, I think, still stays at number 2. Haven't seen him consistently enough at a highest level to say he's number one. So really only kind of 2, maybe 3 if you put Marchant in there as well, in those 1 and 2 positions. Dingle, I think, can do a solid job, but I don't think he's going any higher. And there is potential there at number 4, but still doesn't count as depth. Ajomo could be great. Hartley could be great, but still just potential. Freeman's in a lot of categories. I think maybe centre's his best position, but we haven't seen him there. Will Joseph got injured, so wasn't in the Six Nations. Oscar Beard's very, very quick, but is he physical enough? Luke Northmore's been talked about a bit, but hasn't really played for England. Seb Atkinson's another young centre. Is he physical enough? So lots of question marks there, but still all in the category number 4. So not many in those top 2 positions. And if you look at wing, the depth isn't there either. No one, I'm saying, in category 1 in that top level position. Maybe if Anthony Watson returns from injury and is fully fit, maybe he'd go there, but we'll wait and see on that one. But really only just a couple of guys who have shown those glimpses. Faye Wabusu, I think, has done enough to show he's in category 2. Tommy Freeman's done enough to go in category 2. And if you look back into the past, performances from Joe Cokanasiga, Adam Radwan have shown those signs that they could be category 1, but haven't had enough caps and performances to make that leap. So a problem there when we're picking wings and we don't really have anyone in category 1 for me. Let me know if you think Elliot Daly maybe should be there. I'm saying he is solid. He has limitations physically, speed-wise, power-wise, so I don't think he makes that transition up to 1. Max Malins has come back for Bristol. He shows he has class about him, but is he quick enough for international wing? I say no generally. So they're both in 3, although they can do a good job, and that's the point of category 3. And in category 4, the potential, Caden Murley, Slightholme still tearing it up. Hassel Collins could come back. We didn't see Muir in the Six Nations or Roebuck. So some guys there who could be good performers for England, but at the moment just don't count as depth. And just a little aside for an under-18s winger who I'm going to watch this weekend, Tyler Afire, son of Martin Afire. He's coming up through England under-18, 6'2", and this guy is a thoroughbred sprinter. Let's see what his general game is like. It's a long way in the future, but one to watch this weekend. Then on to fullback. Same thing for me. No one in category 1. Furbank showed signs that he could get there maybe as an exciting counter-attacking fullback, but not enough games. Freddie Stewart maybe classes as category 3, very solid in certain situations, but doesn't have the pace to be category 1. Maybe you would put him category 1 for what he can do, I don't know. Potential-wise, we know Josh Hodge could be great, but time will tell with him. Is his tackling good enough? Is his physicality good enough? Is he consistent enough? If the answers are yes, he goes up to category 1, I think, but at the moment, just potential, and maybe Freeman could be a good fullback as well. So here's England's depth chart as I make it. Sure, you could put a few more in there, maybe at level 4, but my point is there's 9 there at level 1, there's 13 there at level 2. That's not huge amounts of depth. If you lose a few of those, you're starting to struggle. You're hoping that some guys from level 4 will come through, and I think they will. I'm quite optimistic about England, but the point is there isn't depth there yet. Hopefully this potential will come through, and we will have some answers in 2024 because England are playing New Zealand 3 times and they're playing the world champion South Africa. We'll see if some of these level 4s step up. We'll see how good these guys in level 1 and 2 are, if they really are top level performers, or will England get found out? England's depth is a bit fragile. It's exciting. It could go one of 2 ways. Let me know what your depth chart would be and why. All those comments below. If you like these sorts of videos, please do subscribe. Please do like. That would be amazing. And I'll catch you next time.